I'm the most perfect little boy.
I didn't say little boy. You added that.
You definitely said little boy, but I cut it out so the audience
said,
won't know. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Lore Dump.
So hey, yeah. Welcome to our podcast.
Welcome to the Big Blue House. That was from Bear in the Big Blue House. That was a Disney Channel show. Are we going to get
copyright struck?
We're going to go on a lot of tangents because we're both pretty tired, but who cares?
Yeah, are we getting copy? Are we going to get? Is Bear in the Big Blue House going to copyright strike us?
I don't think Bear's very litigious. I think he's a very peaceful, like, fun-loving bear. Also, I don't know a lot of lawyers who would represent a bear, so I think we're good.
You don't know enough lawyers then.
Welcome
actually,
to the Big Blue
I have
House.
some we won't get into this, but I have some information about Bear that we maybe should be concerned
no.
about. We won't talk about that here because that's slander as well. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, go check out our secondary podcast, The Tea Drop, for Josh to dump all that spicy tea on Bear from the Big Blue House. But this is Lore Dump. This is the show where we create a world before your very ears.
And what a world we have created. It is such a world.
It's so good. It's so magical.
Really good. It's a spicy place.
It's a spicy, hot place. And if you haven't listened to the other episodes, what are you doing here? You're missing all the good stuff. This is the bad part of the show.
This is episode 6, and it has been a constant downhill slope.
We've already peaked in the first episode, I think. That was it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was it. We're just making noise at this point into a microphone.
We're making noise, we're making worlds, we're making up answers to your questions, which you've submitted at loredumpquestions@gmail.com, or where else, Joshua?
At the Lore Dump on Twitter and Instagram, the most bestest social medias for all your Lore Dump needs.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good stuff.
Good.
They're come hang out with us, Come tweet at us.
Tweet at us. Send us a picture of your dog or your
You really just asked for dog pictures on our podcast?
I want your dog pictures, and I want pictures of your home games. You and all your little friends hanging around a table, all wearing masks and 6 feet apart, because we are in an epidemic, people. Be safe.
I want pictures of your dogs wearing masks at a table playing Dungeons and Dragons.
That's too much. You're asking too much of our audience.
No, if you achieve this, I will, don't know, do something.
This is recorded. Legally binding.
If you do that, I will shave my beard.
If someone sends Josh a picture of their dog masked and DMing a game, he will shave his beard. You've heard it here.
It has to be multiple.
He will shave his full body. Everyone heard
my whole body. No, that's so much hair, Sean.
No, it's barely even there, and I'll donate it all to kids.
They didn't see that, but you just saw me
I saw you fully
how
look
much
into
hair
your chest, confirming that yes, that is quite a bit of hair on there.
There is a lot.
Jesus Christ, what are we doing here?
I don't know. We should probably do a podcast episode. So, do you know what we're doing today, Sean?
Today, we're going to talk about a topic that you are going to tell the people about now, and I already know what it is, sure.
Yes, this is the topic that Sean definitely knows what we're talking about, because he remembers the things we do together. Do you remember that storm dragon that we homebrewed? Do you remember the one who lived on top of the pillars?
You mean the one we put on D&D Beyond?
Mm-hmm. That's the one. The Ascendant Storm Dragon. What do you remember? Do you remember, Sean, in our lore, in our canon, the dwarves came up to the top of the pillars and they knocked the horn off that Storm Dragon? Do you recall that?
Oh, let me flip through the old tome here. Oh, gotta get all the pages here. Oh. Yep. I see it in the 200s near around there. It's.
I enjoy that this show has props.
There it is. Put that book away for later.
Huge book. Okay, so that fella right there, his horn got chopped off, right? And the dwarves were like, aye, we should probably take this horn and use it for magical things.
That's racist, but you did.
Oh, no, it's not.
They sound like they're from Kansas. All dwarves in this world sound like they're from Kansas.
Like Dorothy?
Maybe not. We'll figure the voice out for dwarves later, but it's definitely not whatever.
Please do your best Kansas accent for me now.
Oh hi.
I
Oh.
Oh my god. Okay, so yes, so the storm focus. We're spiraling. Bad. So the storm giant's horn got cut off, and the dwarves took it. Storm dragon. That's right. Storm giant is from our Conundrum campaign, Conundrum Company campaign.
Check that on the welcome in.
Watch that on the welcome in. So the storm dragon got its horn lobbed off, and the dwarves picked it up and kind of crafted it into an item that allows them to control the weather around their mountain home.
Now
it's a very powerful relic.
This dragon, it didn't die. It escaped, but it left this horn behind.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay, and the dwarves have been holding on to it as some sort of powerful relic.
Mm-hmm. And see, here's the thing with the storm dragon. Ascendant storm dragons have the ability to terraform the world around them, to manipulate it to meet their requirements. And the horn can do the same to an extent. It controls the weather.
Yes. If it's left in an area, it will do the same sort of natural things and can be channeled upon to affect nature as the dwarves see fit, giving them some sort of ecological advantage.
And dwarven culture on top of the pillars has been impacted by this. They have essentially been one of the dominant powers upon this continent for multiple reasons, but one of those reasons is the ability to control the weather around the continent through the Stormhorn. So we kind of established, but we didn't talk about it a lot, the lore surrounding the dwarves and how they kind of pass this horn down from family to family, and kind of the leading bureaucratic families here use it as a symbol of power.
Yes.
And in the right hands, it's good. And in the wrong hands, it's not so good.
In the wrong hands, devastating to the people, the serfs that live on the floor ground.
Yes.
Fuck those guys.
The floor ground?
The floor ground.
That's a technical D&D term. Pro tip.
Yeah.
If it's on the ground, it's called the floor ground.
The floor ground.
You need 2 words to describe everything. In
Otherwise, it's the sky ground, and everyone gets confused.
Yes. Or the sky air.
Sky air is above the dwarves, obviously, Josh. Come on.
Yeah.
The floor air is what you're referring to.
No, you know what? Okay, so we have this lore established. And what we want to do is we want to craft that item.
Or craft it into something you can use in your world.
And this is an artifact. This is like, so I think we're looking at like a legendary or artifact item. Like
yes.
Right?
That is accurate.
So for our new listeners, there are different types of items, and they kind of dictate the power and value of these items. So we're talking about like legendary artifact items are very high up there. Like those are the big fancy ones.
Yes. There are... let's see if I can pull it off the old dome piece without looking it up at all. Don't look at me.
You're doing such a good job with your dome piece.
There are common items, uncommon items, rare items, very rare items, legendary items, and then above all those are artifacts. We're saying this is an artifact, correct?
I think so. I mean, no, I'm not 100% clear on this, and I'm genuinely not playing dumb. Artifacts, do they require... most artifacts you see have attenuations to them, like levels of power to them that you unlock through grand deeds? Some
of them, more specifically, those are the ones that Matthew Mercer has created recently. Those are the vestiges of divergence that he has in his campaign.
But Wizards has put that into Theros, right? Like, some of those items have...
Some of the more recent ones, I do believe, level up with you, but artifacts don't necessarily need to level up with you.
Okay. So it's more just the power, the prominence.
Yes.
And this is an artifact. This is world myth, world lore level stuff.
This is... So artifacts, as it stands in the hierarchy of magical items, those are the ones that, like, even things that destroy magical items might not destroy artifacts. They have like a higher tier of power in that grand scale. Like legendary items are potentially destroyable, whereas artifacts are very, very hard to destroy.
That's right.
Yeah, something like that.
Beautiful. So there's kind of... So we're looking at making an artifact item, my friends. So the thing, I think one of the good reasons that this is fun to kind of do is because, A, it's going to be incredibly powerful. Like, we're going to be able to do some very cool things with it. But also, it's going to be like a big item to make. There's there's going to be a lot for us to go over here. Whereas like a lot of the time with an uncommon item or a common item, it's just a few lines of text that you're adding in here. So we're going to kind of get really deep and granular with this.
We're going to get in there. We're going to mix it up and get filthy dirty.
This podcast just went R. So, where do we start, Sean? Where do we start with an
Where do we
artifact?
start? I think we start picking out what kind of artifact this is going to be. It's not armor. It's not a ring. It's not a rod. It's not a staff. It's not a weapon. I think it's a wondrous item.
So, Sean is touching upon something very important when you're creating items, and that is keywords. There are keywords used to define items into certain mechanics of the game.
Yeah.
So what Sean's saying is we're going to make this one side. So like a weapon can be wielded, armor can be worn, and there's other like artifact is a keyword, right?
Yep.
So you have to kind of like match to those keywords and make sure you'll see on every item stat sheet right under the name, it's got these like italicized words: weapon, armor, artifact, very rare, all those sorts of things. So those are very important.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting overly technical, but this is kind of important to understand.
I mean, this is a technical sort of podcast at times. We're not just all poop jokes and space chickens.
No, just 90% of the time.
Most of it is poop jokes and space chickens.
Yeah, and then there's some times where we're like, keyword.
It's not in the book. You forgot to file your paperwork.
Okay, so we know it's going to be a wondrous item. We know it's going to be an artifact. So another like keyword component is like attenuation, so attunement. I'd like to decide if we are going to require that.
Here's the thing.
At the end.
Yeah. My first go-to thing is no.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and this is my image, I see this thing as being too big to move easily.
Oh, yes.
So it's like not something that's like in someone's pocket or around their neck. It's like a fixture in their home.
This is like a piece of furniture.
Yeah. It's like an art piece or something like that. You can't move this easily.
Now I'm envisioning like one of those giant ass horns from like Norse mythology that they put up on like a giant cliff, and it has like a stand and like a stairs leading up to it, and then like the mouthpiece is like cut way up in the tip, but then it's this like huge lengthy coiling thing.
Yeah, because it came off of that massive dragon, so it's not going to be a little tiny baby horn.
No, that's perfect. That's really good. I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. Okay, so
my first impulse is attunement. No
attunement, but it's not going anywhere with anybody.
Oh God, no.
Not without a lot of effort.
Not without like a card or something.
Yeah. Okay. So no attenuation. That's I mean that's good. We've established that before. A lot of the time with attenuation, you look at the item's power or mobility or so on and so forth, the purpose, and then you decide.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time comes at the end. But this is different.
Never say never. Could be. By the end of this, we're like, oh, you know what? Fine. Attunement.
Yeah. We'll see how much it grows or shrinks.
Yeah.
By the end of this. Okay. So where is this horn, this furniture horn, currently installed?
So I actually saw something very interesting mentioned by one of our listeners in our Welcome In Discord. Subscribe to the Welcome In our Discord. They mentioned that this potential like Stormcaller's horn, if that's what we're naming the item, the Stormcaller could refer to the Dwarven house that owns it. It's like a title that is passed around the city. The Stormcaller refers to a dwarf and not the dragon that it came from. So whoever has this item is the Stormcaller, and it exists in their homestead.
A prominent cultural or political or religious figure within the pillars is the Stormcaller, and the Stormcaller's house, which is whatever Dwarven clan maintains the Stormcaller's horn.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's some good, juicy, spicy.
That's some good stuff.
Wow.
Excuse me, I got that.
So we've got the Stormcaller's horn. We've got so we're assuming some things here.
I
immediately.
If I assume I make an ass out of you and me, and I'm done with that.
I knew that was coming.
I think maybe possibly something could happen.
Yes. So But we are assuming, or I'm assuming, I don't want to presume for you, that we are accepting the more traditional Dwarven hierarchy, which is like clans or family-focused, like oriented groups of nobles. Are we sticking to that? Because that's critically important to this Stormcaller house thing.
I would say a slightly offshoot of that, because they originally were traditional dwarves that came here and then sort of relaxed on the dwarven culture, sort of set up their own dwarven culture, which is a little bit more lax on that strict hierarchy. And a lot of it over time has been more wealth related, not necessarily like clan related, if that makes any sense.
Wealth related.
Because this is the rich part of town where, whoever has the most money and the most influence.
So the biggest merchant house?
I would say probably yes. Or not even the biggest merchant house, just whoever controls the most wealth at any given time.
I do like, there's more nuance and depth to be had, though, if it's groups rather than an individual.
Yes.
But I like the concept that it's not bloodline, but merchant family that you join to. Yeah. And merchant families come and go. It's more akin to Venice, right?
Yes.
And Italy during their city-state periods, where the families and the, like the Borgia and all of that were... No.
I know nothing about history.
But like that concept where you can join a family for their wealth.
Yes, and I like since it is potentially an individual who owns it currently, or the head of a group of individuals. I like the fact that currently it's being held by a very trustworthy and honest merchant who is using it wisely and not abusing it currently.
Like this merchant very much came to the top, came into his wealth, or this merchant family came into their wealth by playing smart, by being honest and true, and people have they're known for that brand. They're known to be trusted for that, and so their wealth has grown off of that sort of lawful perspective, not necessarily lawful good, but lawful kind of
evil.
Not evil.
Oh, okay.
They are trustworthy.
Yes.
Right? And that's a part of their brand.
Trustworthy in the sense that whatever like the best call is for that moment in time, they'll make.
It's the very like good side,
it's like
quote
lawful
unquote,
neutral
of capitalism. Almost. Yeah, it's like the kind of
Yeah,
I like that.
I think that would be cool if we did that.
Okay.
I also like the idea of it being sort of this title being passed around as some sort of contest. Or some sort of like something changes it up every now and then.
Here's the deal. The Pillars has a stock exchange, and whoever's at the top of the stock exchange gets the Stormcaller house and the Stormcaller's horn.
Whoever's at the top becomes the Stormcaller's house.
So they become the Stormcaller house. If you're at the top of the stock exchange, if you're Dow or whatever, you become the Stormcaller house.
I know nothing about the stock exchange though. I like it because it's challenging and I don't know anything about stocks. So we're going to say yes.
We're going to do it. And we can also just make this isn't a real world stock exchange. Yeah. This is a fantasy stock exchange.
Buy, sell. Magic.
That's what it is. Yeah, it's perfect. Okay. So they literally track the holdings and accounts and banks and monetary value of these families, and whoever has the highest gross holdings is the Stormcaller's house.
And because they're dwarf, every coin, every gem, every monetary item is counted.
And accountants hold a very high position in Dwarven society. Yeah, they're like the auditors. Exactly, the Council of Accountants decide. This is getting very bureaucratic.
The council.
The council?
Yeah.
I like it. Oh, that's good. That's really good. The council. It sounds so epic. The council accounts for all holdings and decides the Stormcaller house.
Oh man, that's good.
Okay, so we've got the stock exchange that dictates who the leading house is, and that house is given. So I like to think that there is literally a palace built around this horn, and whichever family is the leader moves into that palace.
Yes.
Like, I like to think there's a structure around it.
Yes.
I like that.
Okay, so hear me out. How about whoever is at the top of the stock exchange after a certain number of years? Like every 5 years they check, and
they do an audit.
They do an audit and they reassess who the Stormcaller is at that point in time. So there's not like people moving in and out of this house every month.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
The council comes in and audits all of the merchant houses and decides
every 5
which one.
years.
Yeah,
and it's literally like, okay, it's been 5 years. Let's start for the next one.
And a family could be in that position for centuries.
Yeah.
Like if they maintain their wealth. Like it's not there's no termination, but if another house surpasses you, you're out.
Yeah, even if it's getting like close, it's like, ooh, you got to hold on so you can eke out just long enough to survive the audit, and then you can let it lapse and then gain and then whatever you want to do.
And you get like these mass liquidation. Like when the audit is coming near, everyone liquidates their assets, and like there's a bunch of subterfuge and like corporate espionage.
That's so good. Oh, this is fucking great. It's probably sounds completely uninteresting to everyone else, but I think it sounds fucking great.
It's amazing. There's so much potential for a D&D game in there.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Oh my god.
Accountants and actuaries actually make sense in this world.
Yeah, it's good. Like it's relevant and a learning experience for us.
Hell yeah, dude.
All right, so we've got this whole lore and this whole philosophy and structure around this horn now. So let's make the actual item. We know it's sitting in this palace. We know it's called the Stormcaller's horn. It's a status symbol and a symbol of power, but it's also incredibly powerful in and of itself.
Yes.
We know it controls the weather in some way, shape, or form. How does it do that? What does that mean when a player comes into ownership, possession of this item?
So, I think essentially wherever it's placed, it begins to spread out its influence from there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say every day that it remains in the same place, the amount of area it's able to reach extends by 100 feet. So if you move it to a new place, the next day it'll be able to make a storm within within 100 feet of that place.
And that expands.
And every day it reaches out further and further. Yeah. Well, to a range of like whatever this continent size is.
Okay.
Because that's about where it is.
Because it's sat on the pillars for hundreds, if not thousands of years in that one palace, it has incredible reach. What happens if you move it 4 feet?
I think if it remains within like the first increment of 100 feet, it keeps its aura. But if you move it out of the primary area of its influence, it will need to reset basically. Okay.
So this is more of a fluff sort of thing, but it's almost like an item with a layer action.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a less powerful version of the full dragon itself. It's the essence of part of it. So it's not as strong, but it is that sort of gradually changing place.
I guess we should define the aesthetic of this.
Rad.
So it's a big, huge, long horn. I assume very dwarven in aesthetic, set into this sort of stand. Is the horn itself like white or light blue?
I was going to say they hollowed it out and actually made a horn.
A horn out of it. Oh, absolutely. I was assuming. Sorry.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. 100% with that. It's like a drinking horn, but like when you play it and it's like positioned to be played. Yeah, okay, that's so basically, what we're imagining is like this long curved horn, let's say like 8-9 feet long, that widens outwards. Say what?
Like a cornucopia? Is that what it's called?
Kind of like a cornucopia, yeah. But it kind of cornucopia like curls in on itself, I think. But whatever. No, it doesn't. I don't know. Anyway, it's this big long horn like a dragon horn that's like 9 feet long, and it kind of widens and flares out, and it's literally cut into a horn, hollowed out with a mouthpiece on one end that's like really ornate, maybe like a gold inlay like all over the place, very like dwarven in style.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ricola.
Hey, big fun thing that D&D always loves is to give their items sentience. I don't think this has sentience.
It came off a creature that has sentience, so I'm going to say probably not.
Probably not, yeah. So we can axe that. But that's always something to consider in your items.
I love doing it.
That is fun.
Believe me,
Sentience
I love doing
is
sentient items.
Mm-hmm. But it just doesn't fit here.
No. No. I think this one's just a hunk of magical essence of a creature.
Okay. All right. So we've got kind of we've got a like global effect that it does. The reason it's kept in power. We've got an aesthetic for it. What are mechanical things it does?
Mechanical things it does.
Mm-hmm.
It can. There is a very powerful, I think, druid spell called Storm of Vengeance.
Okay,
my mind keeps getting pulled towards that. I'm going to look it up now. I think it's like an 8th or 9th level spell. Yeah, Storm of Vengeance is a 9th level spell.
Churning storm cloud forms centered on a point you can see and spreading to a radius of 360 feet. Lightning flashes in the area, thunder booms, and strong winds roar. Each creature under the cloud, no more than 5,000 feet beneath the cloud, when it appears, must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, a creature takes 2d6 thunder damage and becomes deafened for 5 minutes. Each round you maintain concentration on the spell, the storm produces additional effects on your turn, and then through 10 rounds it spools up into more and more damage.
Yeah.
And more area of effect things. Okay.
Is that something that looks like it would be?
So could you globally cast Storm of Vengeance? Like
once a day.
Continent-wise.
Not continent-wide. But
okay, how far?
In the area, within this 100 or 360 feet, you could just put that 360 feet over an area for a certain amount of time. Or something akin to that.
I think it should cover the entire city. I think it's a defensive measure.
This city that it's in?
Yes, or the AoE, the effect of it. Because this is only, within 360 feet. In the scale of a city, that's nothing. But if this was here and positioned like this, what's the purpose of being able to call a storm in on your own city?
I think this horn should be able to control weather
right
in the radius that it has set up.
Okay, so this is a part of that. This is a function.
I will say this is a possibility. Once it does this, it can't do this again for a month. So they've got once a month they can just dump something on a city somewhere. And I do agree with you to scale it up. But there is also the spell Control Weather. And I think...
Which is just a more usable thing.
It's more usable, and I think it's that radius we talked about earlier, where every day it gets 100 feet wider and wider. So I think it should be able to use the Control Weather spell in the entire radius that it's that increases as it sits there. That entire radius should be the range of its Control Weather spell.
Okay, so it has, rather than within 5 miles, it's whatever the area of reach is of the horn. You can cast Control Weather essentially at will.
Yeah.
Okay.
What that spell allows them to do is control the temperature, the amount of precipitation, or, clear skies, cloudy, whatever they need for farming, for wind, for even sailing. I think this radius sort of goes out to a lot of the harbors. Maybe it makes it difficult to get in or out of the actual docks. I can't control water. I can't control the seas, but it can make them choppy if there's a storm that way. It can
control the winds, which affects the currents and the tides and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. I like all that. So it's got that massive... at this point, continent spanning because of how long the horn's been sitting in place.
Yes.
Reach. For those 2 spells. One of them at will, one of them kind of once a month charge sort of thing.
Basically, yeah. It's like a in case of emergency break glass. And then I think once it uses that, the Control Weather is very limited. Like, you can only send, like, light rain, or you can't, like, send another storm somewhere, or, like, rainstorm, just vernacular's sake, for a certain amount of time.
I love it. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay. Any other mechanics we want this to have?
You mentioned it being used as a defense of the city it's in. Mm-hmm. What does that look like to you?
I'm not certain. I mean, the ability to target, like, advancing enemies already with that, like, thunder ability is quite powerful. But I mean, like, the ability to maybe, like, Wall of Wind or something like that, like, throw up, or dust storm, like, those sorts of spells, throw those up around the perimeter of the city would be very interesting. Like, there's a reason it hasn't been taken from the dwarves.
I was gonna say, what if they found a way to, like, channel its inherent energy into some sort of defense? Like, the item itself doesn't, like, cast off lightning, but what if they found a way to, like, whatever's encasing it or holding it in place sort of siphons away that discharge that we've already mentioned the dragon gives off, just by nature of it being there.
So there's a giant,
like, Tesla coil coming out of the top of this mount.
Not
like coming out of the top of it, but like hidden within decoration on the building.
Okay.
That then leads to, like, some sort of offensive.
So I do like that. Like, there's, like, it's up. The palace is, like, up on a rise, like, at the highest point of the pinnacles, like, where the dragon was slain. And the horn sits on a kind of cliff that has been cut out as a balcony. Mm-hmm. And there's this sort of veranda structure over it that it's integrated into.
Yes.
And as a part of that, there's, like, coils, metallic coils, that builds almost... It's like an inlay in the side of this cliff.
Yeah.
But it's a metal inlay that charges all of this. And I recently homebrewed an item that does cast... it was a mast for a ship that functions similarly to this. And it launched... I think it's Lightning Bolt, the spell.
Yeah, at 8th level.
Yeah. At 8th level, out in a straight line. What if it was like a targeted lightning bolt that you could launch out of this thing?
Either a targeted lightning bolt, or it could call lightning.
Or call lightning, yeah. That'd be good too.
Yeah, because that's... I like the idea of within the first, like, 100-foot increment, you could cast Call Lightning. Because I forget, how big is Call Lightning? I'm pretty sure it's
only 120 feet. I think.
A radius cloud.
It's a 60-foot radius, but you can see within 120 feet of you, so we'd have to extend the range a bit.
60-foot radius, so basically that entire first 100-foot, like, circle of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would extend it out to, like, 100-foot radius of where this thing sits. You could cast Call Lightning in that area.
What's the size of... So, as a defensive measure, it's more of a defense of the palace than the city.
For the most part.
Because, like, this is if they were to break the walls.
How big do you envision this city on top of this mountain being?
Quite large, I think.
Quite large?
If we consider it, like, one of the capital cities...
Well, now, here's my question, because I envision this sort of as a holdover from dwarves, and that dwarven architecture being, like, the primary focus. I consider this city not being spread outwards, but spread downwards into the mountain itself.
Okay. So the palace is one of the few things on the surface.
There's a very few number of buildings outside on the top section of the spire. And I think the rest of the city is actually inside, worked into the mountain itself.
So the city is built up underneath around this pinnacle. The palace sits atop, and this balcony has the best vantage point of most of the surrounding area. Yeah. Like, the balcony is pretty much the only thing at the very top. In fact, even the palace itself is underneath it, kind of built outside of the rock, but into the rock. Yes. Like, very dwarven. Like, I think, like, Casmodan and things like that, where you see protrusions of the structure breaking the surface.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so then this balcony is actually more a veranda at the very top of the pinnacle. The horn sits on the top there of this flat space, and really this lightning can be cast in any direction around it. It's got 360 degrees of visibility.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
That makes more sense for the 100 feet.
Yeah. I still think, because we're still on top of a mountain, so that people would be approaching from far away. So I still think it should be more than 100 feet.
Well, it can still make the surrounding area beyond that very difficult to maneuver through. Like, it can send torrential rain in every direction. It can send blizzards if it wants to, technically.
Right, but if it's on the top of this mountain, and everything's built into the mountain, they're not approaching across open ground anywhere near this. Like,
what would you suggest?
I genuinely think that the range of Call Lightning is enhanced for this item.
Well, it is already enhanced. How much more do you want to enhance it?
I mean, I'm thinking like 600 feet.
600 feet? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that would only work if the item had sit in a place like this for so long. What I'm doing is building an item that you can move anywhere.
Oh, so you're wanting to move it.
I'm saying the party, most likely, if they hear about this thing, is going to want to try and steal it.
Sure.
If they do that, there has to be rules to set up how it works in the rest of the world. Okay. Now, we do have to think about how it works in this town and how they would use it. So I am willing to say, like, over time, that range increases the longer it sits in a place.
We've made this complicated by making it a static item, which is very interesting to explore.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm not opposed to it, but it's interesting. Yes, I get it to some extent. But on the flip side also, it's a item that isn't going to be moved around a lot. Even if the party steals it, they're going to haul it somewhere and leave it there. So I like the area, the grand reach spells for most of the weather control because the reach is so incredible. But I also like the idea of just one spell. It can cast at a set range, and it's quite an impressive range, but it doesn't adjust. And I feel like that aligns fine with it being movable as well.
Okay.
So, because, I mean, the one time it's going to be, so if they're bringing it around with them, they've got it sitting on a cart, and they sit down and they cast Call Lightning from the back of this cart on something within 600 feet. That's still not, for an artifact weapon, completely, like, unreasonable.
Right, that's why dwarves don't attach it to a tank and drive it into battle.
Yeah.
That's why it's sat here for so long, is because it's useless if you move it.
Yeah.
But I also get the sense that if the party steals it and it's like, oh, it doesn't do anything, well, just chuck it out the window then.
Yeah.
Yeah. That does.
Which is why the kind of like, I'm pushing for that Call Lightning to be a little more effective.
Because you're of the mindset you want it to do something right now when I get it for the first time.
Yeah,
I want to grab this thing off the wall and I want to use it on someone.
I mean, maybe we keep it, it's, you can cast Call Lightning at like 3rd level maximum, so that it's not a massive dump of damage.
Yeah.
Or you give it charges per day or something.
I'm not so much afraid of the damage. I'm just, I don't know. I guess I'm thinking of it more from a lore perspective of how this thing actually functions mechanically.
I mean, I am as well. I think we're coming from very different places with it, though.
Yeah.
Because all of this is fueled from a lore perspective. Of like, again, from a defensive, if you were to use it from a defensive position for the lore that we established for it, if it had 100 feet range, it would be useless. Because you'd be lightning calling on cliff sides and the tops of your buildings. And not much else.
Well, what if the longer it sat in a place, the more range it had for that Call Lightning?
So you want to do the range thing with Call Lightning as well. Everything is on that reach element.
I mean, unless you feel like it would somehow be able to Call Lightning 600 feet away.
I mean, I personally don't think it'd be beyond the power of this artifact lore-wise, but if we want to tie it to that, it just seems like the same effect for the same thing a number of times. Okay. So how many charges do you think it would get with Call Lightning?
That's my thing. I wasn't going to give it charges.
So it's unlimited Call Lightnings at this whatever range it establishes for itself.
Yeah.
Based on how long it's sat somewhere. Okay. At what level? Would just cast at level 1 or?
I would say 5th.
5th level?
Yeah. That's, I believe, 5d10s.
Spells damage increases by 1d10. Oh, this is... I guess there is the interesting element with this one as well of like...
AoE effect?
How it lasts, and each time the damage goes up. 5th level. 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 5th le if there's a lightning storm or whatever.
Oh, yeah. If there's already a storm going on, the damage goes up by 1. But
which is cool.
Yeah.
You could use that in tandem as well with the call weather, create weather effect.
Yeah.
Or control weather. That's the spell.
Okay.
That's neat.
So
okay. So not an insane amount of damage, and the players could use that as they move around with it. And it's at that 100-foot radius. If it's moving, the radius grows. If not.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Now, what can it do to fix your issue with it? What can it do just sitting there? What is its power? What can it do without needing to sit there and gain influence over the land for a long time? Because that's the issue you're having with it.
Well, I mean, I don't know that that it has to. My issue was more from the, like, there is, from a defensive perspective, like, if the dwarves kept this on top of a mountain, the call lightning at 100 feet is irrelevant. We've kind of addressed that problem. It means nothing.
Yeah.
So that was my perspective. When we're talking about it from they use this for defense, like, because we were exploring that idea, that's, call lightning would do nothing. All you could do is lightning strike your own people, even if it was underground, because you're sitting up on top of a mountain. But if that scales out based on how long it's sat there, I don't mind. Now, if there is some sort of thing, that it can do for the party, still, if they, like, steal it and strap it onto a cart, sure. I don't know that we want to do that with this. It kind of detracts from the lore.
I like it being an artifact that's meant for, like,
sitting.
This artifact is what you build your stronghold around. You put this in the middle of it, and then you let it sit there for as long as possible, and you just let it get stronger and stronger until it can.
And that's how it levels up.
Yeah, basically.
That's one thing we could do. Okay, so if we did do, again, like levels to this, what if it sat there long enough that when it had a certain reach, more powerful versions of spells or more powerful spells unlocked?
I like that too.
So, like, it has tiers of capability.
What about this? What if, at, like, when it's fully set, whatever the range is, when it reaches that full range, when you cast control weather on an area, you also get to scry on it.
Ooh, that's good. So that's the final tier of, like, you can scry anywhere, essentially.
Yeah, you basically get a nationwide scry through the storm. So, like, while it's raining on a town, you get to look down on it.
I love that. That's really good.
I like that too. That's good.
Awesome. So yeah, it reaches its maximum distance, which we'll define outside of this.
Yeah, we'll have to find out how big the continent is first, and then I think it goes just a little bit outside of whatever that continent is.
Over the sea.
Yeah, but it's also been sitting there for, like, thousands of years. So
yeah, so it's, like, it's very established, and it would be, like, world shattering if it did get moved. Which is
that would ruin those dwarves' economy and livelihood,
and culture and society. Everything would fall apart. The government would fall apart. Everything would be destroyed.
And I think all the houses up there, as much as they probably all fucking hate each other, they all band together as soon as anyone tries to take that horn away from them. Because they're like, well, if that leaves, then regardless of where I am amongst this society, I'm ruined.
It's the unifying factor.
Yes.
Like, there is no... The greatest betrayal would be moving that horn or attacking the Stormcaller's house.
Yes, and I think, like, acting against the Stormcaller and whoever holds it and the horn in general is like exile worthy. You are stripped of all land, title, anything you have is taken from
you. The greatest insult is losing your wealth, your home, and your holdings. Just, that's it. You're done. Ooh, I like this. This is good, juicy lore stuff.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to make the item, but make it make it from the perspective of how important is it to these people.
Yeah, yeah.
Because most likely it's going to stay there. I know the party will want it, but they probably
I think
get it.
We're coming from the same perspective there. I'm in agreement. It's just, I was like, so, okay, beautiful, masterful, wonderful.
I like it.
Do we have anything else we want to add to this?
I think I'm good, actually, because we got most of the lore out of the way.
The lore's done.
We got a lot of the effects out of the way.
The aesthetics are there.
It doesn't need to be attuned. We agreed on that. It more attunes to the land it's sitting on. if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Oh, I like that as a concept. I don't know that I've ever really seen like an item that attunes to the land.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's a good idea.
And breaking that attunement is basically moving it.
Yeah, moving it is the break.
Yeah.
And attunement takes time.
Now, here's something. It's an artifact. We have to do this. How can it be destroyed? Because artifacts usually need to have a way that says, this is how this gets destroyed.
The only thing that can destroy it is the Ascendant Storm Dragon that it belongs to.
You think only it can destroy itself?
Mm-hmm. I think that, like, it's a part of... Because it's a part of... We've established that the Ascendant Dragons are demigods.
Yeah.
So this is a part of a god. Maybe there are a few ways, but I think at least one of the ways needs to be the Storm Dragon itself.
Okay, so let's do it this way first. Are there staple ways that artifacts can be destroyed, like by taking it to a demigod? Can any demigod destroy it?
Yes. I think
any demigod can find this thing.
Any demigod could destroy it. Or god.
Okay, or god. Okay. Cool.
They don't care enough to bother with it.
Usually not, but
yeah,
that's good to know.
Okay. Any other ways you'd like to see it destroyable?
Not really. I think
that's sufficient.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so it could be destroyed by the demigods.
Yes.
Just kind of based on the lores and hierarchy of our world.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay, now, this is probably going to be cut from the podcast, but should I create this and put it on D&D Beyond?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we have to figure out what the range is for this thing before I do that.
Yeah, we'll wait to put it up there, which is why this is being cut out. But eventually it can be put on D&D.
Perfect. Okay.
I really do like the concept of land attenuation. That's
cute. Yeah, it's kind of a fun thing, especially because magic comes from the earth.
Yeah, I like that concept. Okay, we've made our item. We did it, Sean.
Ba-ba-da-ba-da.
Did we open the chest and like stand up dramatically? 10 rupees? Bullshit.
Oh shit, that was supposed to be the horn. Fuck, someone stole it.
It's gone.
It's got to reattune. Damn it. Oh no, it's the big evasion.
You're doomed. Okay. So, we made our Stormcaller's horn, which is this beautiful, fantastic item that we made. Now, we have questions. We
do?
We do.
Wait, you mean people went to loredumpquestions@gmail.com or found us on Instagram or Twitter at the loredump and sent us questions?
They did.
Oh, Jesus, I'm actually surprised.
How excited are you?
Ooh, it's like Christmas Day. Nobody told me.
You're Jewish, remember?
I plead the fifth.
Yeah, okay. All right, so questions. Our first question is, what are some ways to handle the use of homebrew that may be problematic to your world or game balance? So what are things you can do when homebrewing that can muck everything up?
Making something that's too powerful.
Yes.
Yeah, that's first and foremost. That's probably the only thing. If I will say there's actually two ways. One way is making something too powerful in terms of like either you make your homebrew creature too strong and it kills your whole fucking party and you didn't know that was going to happen, but it did happen and you have to get over it. Or you make a homebrew class too strong and that character stands out and no one else gets to have any cool moments because this one homebrew character gets to do everything. Those are the two powerful ways.
And I will say, like, there's different... So, homebrewing a class, that's an art form that you do iteratively over a long period of time before you implement it into a campaign.
Yes.
You need to know... Because especially, like, a one-shot, fine. Yeah, test out your homebrew in a one-shot. You know, it might be a little irritating for the other players, but it's a one-shot. Dropping a homebrew that's not tested and not understood into a campaign with a bunch of other players that now have to put up with those mechanics and you tooling and tweaking it, not particularly fair on your players. So, like, class homebrews, you have to be particularly careful about.
Yes.
Same with some items, but not nearly to the extent, because it's not as complicated as a class.
Well, I will say there's also the other side of making something too weak, where you can make a subclass too weak and then the player, isn't having fun or they get the shit kicked out of them. Or you could make like an item too weak. Like say you're giving everyone in your party that very super cool, super rare item that, their character wants to get at the highest level, and you made one of their items too weak. That feels bad for that player. And I would just say there's always ways to fix that after the fact. Without it feeling like too much like hey, I fucked up, here you go, here's a new item. You can just say like, oh, you've awakened it, or it's now better because you did something cool. Yeah.
And like items with levels and stuff like that, like that's why they kind of exist. Like it's a good way to do it and add it in there.
Yeah.
It's also, we're more conscientious of the homebrew we put out because we like broadcast games and people are watching it and scrutinizing it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing to just say like in a home game that you can't go to your player and say, hey man, you know what? I goofed.
I'm
gonna dial this back a little bit, or I'm gonna dial it up a little bit. Just from that kind of perspective. Just be cognizant.
Don't be afraid to tell your players you goofed.
Yeah, you goofed. You're not... Everyone plays into the like omnipotent DM thing, but no DM is omnipotent. And it's not a like, just be like, I was tooling around with this and I mucked it up.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. Second question. This is a kind of long one. It's got 2 parts.
2 parts.
If you're in the middle of running a session and realize there's a gap or an unresolved detail in something you've homebrewed, do you have any specific strategies or approaches to settling those problems? And part 2 is it different from the normal approach to filling in gaps and improvising that DMs will always need to do? In a way, that question kind of answers itself.
I would say yes, but not fully. So how does it answer itself?
Well, it is... So if you've got a void and you need to fix it, it is just thinking on the fly to an extent. Like understanding the rules around it and the intent of the item, like if it's an item or an object or a monster,
yes.
But also like dialing things back. Like if it's a homebrew monster and you're like, holy shit, this party is going to have 1 round and be TPK'd. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Just dial it back. We all do it. As long as there's trust there and you're not abusing the rules or the mechanics of the game, you're not doing anything wrong by making a hit point adjustment or a DC adjustment. You're really not. And every DM knows how to do that.
Yeah. I would say that it fully requires you to be sort of thinking on your feet and improvise as you need to. But all you have to do is look at the gap, look at either side of it, and then logically fill in the middle with whatever should be there. A lot of the times that'll happen when you're focused on like different aspects of homebrewing. You'll be like, oh fuck, I forgot to fill in this part. What would be there? This. That would make sense in this area. It doesn't break anything else, and it just gives a little bit more detail, or it adds a fun little flavor thing in. Because if you forgot about it and there's a gap in there, clearly it wasn't that important.
And this is an art form and something that you should practice when you pull somebody else's homebrew. There's so much out there, and you go out and you grab an item. This has happened to me recently, where I grabbed an item, threw it into a game, and I was like, this has been thought out. I can't see anything wrong with it. And then the moment that it hit the table, it was like, oh, there's a big thing missing. And I just set a rule at that moment. I was confident in that ruling. I considered the kind of gap, and I was like, okay, problem solved. Sean's making faces at me.
I know what item this is now.
Mm-hmm. Sean knows exactly what item this is.
I know how it's broken, and I know how I avoid
it. And like, so like you kind of like you dial it in there, but that's the same with, and that's kind of the beauty of homebrew is somebody created a really cool item, then we implemented it. It was a little bit off, so we made our own adjustment. And that is homebrewing in and of itself, is also taking existing things. All Sean and I do is take the rules established by D&D and add our own flair to them. Like, that is homebrewing. Make sure you're giving credit if you're borrowing from somebody or pulling something from it. But
Oh, yeah, yeah. So here's what we do on this podcast. You've seen us time and time again make memes or just steal blatantly, but we always talk about what we're stealing from. We always make sure to mention where the ideas are coming from and then moving forward to make them our own. Always give credit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's first and foremost. Otherwise, just plagiarism.
Yeah. And all homebrew, to some extent, almost all homebrew, is building off of something somebody else has done. Sean, you've said this a million times before yourself.
Yeah. You steal everything.
Yeah, steal everything.
DMs are international thieves.
Just go, hey, I'm stealing it from this person!
Hey, I made a whole one-shotter based off of Lilo and Stitch.
By
no
Disney.
one wants to play? Okay, cool. But I did steal it from Lilo and Stitch.
I would play that, honestly.
Yeah, it sounds fun. You're all escaped experiments. You're running away from Captain Gantu.
If that's not D&D in a nutshell, I don't know what is, honestly.
Captain Gantu?
Escaped experiments running rampant across it.
Oh, yeah, that's actually very accurate.
Like, I have had Stitch in a player group more than once.
Educate yourself! I fucking love that guy.
I love how this kind of closed out on a conversation about Lilo and Stitch. It makes
we still got one more question, right?
No, that's it. That's the question.
Oh, I thought we had 3.
No, we had a second question that had 2 parts, but then it kind of answered itself.
Okay.
What other thoughts do you have regarding
Lilo and Stitch? I think that Jumbo was misunderstood in his time. His intelligence wasn't respected. And that council needs to get the stick out of their ass and get on board with the future. Oh, you meant D&D related. I misunderstood the question.
Well, if there's a gap or an unsolved detail that you've homebrewed, do you have any specific strategies or approaches? So we kind of talked about like being quick on your feet, but any other ways you settle things?
I'm a bad person to ask this. I'm always just improv. Yeah. Improv when you can, improv when you want. I think leaving those gaps is actually sometimes fun. Mm-hmm. And this just came to me now, it can also be where you plug in adventure hooks. Like, you know how your party sometimes goes left when you want them to go right? Maybe leave a gap somewhere and fill that gap in with information they need to get back to going right instead of left.
That's a really good point.
That's what I do usually.
The other thing I do, and my favorite line, Sean's heard me say this before as a DM a million times, is, as the DM, I reserve the right to change this. And I say that to my players all the time, to the point where it's established. Like, I usually am very lenient when a player comes to me with something, or a homebrew item manifests with a rule that's a little iffy, and they're like, well, can we do it this way? And I go, sure, let's try it out. But I reserve the right as your DM to change that.
Yeah, I can take this away from you anytime I want, because I'm big and you're small. I'm smart.
Well, not like that.
Dumb.
Jesus. Just corrupting
not like the Trunchable?
Not the Trunchable, no.
You're not gonna go Trunchable on him? Okay.
I'm not the Trunchable. Like, kindly and respectfully, always, because the DM's role is sacred.
That's accurate.
But highlighting...
the DM's role is sacred, not infallible.
Yes, exactly. I would say it's sacred in that it has the obligation to treat... You have the obligation to treat your players right.
Yes.
That's what I mean by sacred. Not in... That's when I say it, it's not the infallible thing. It's not this God term. That role is sacred in that you are obligated to treat people with respect.
Neutrality leaning towards fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the DM's role is sacred in regards to that you should always treat your players with respect, which is why, as the DM, I reserve the right. Like, you're setting that precedence beforehand.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Boom.
Boom goes the dynamite.
So there were 2 fantastic, wonderful questions with brilliant, genius answers by us because we're such big brains.
Yeah, we're the biggest brains in the bunch.
So if there were people who had more questions that they wanted us to answer, where would they send those?
They would send them to the aforementioned loredumpquestions@gmail.com, or if you're a social media influencer or some sort of person who's on there all the time, you could send us a question at the Lore Dump on Instagram and Twitter.
Oh my gosh, we have an Instagram and a Twitter?
Yes.
That's a little bougie, don't you think?
Yeah. We should dump one of them. Which one's worse? Say it right now publicly. I'm leaving it in. Say it. Go for it. It's Twitter. I can see it in your face. You hate Twitter more.
You've got that look of a person who hates
You've
Twitter.
got that I hate Twitter look, which is most people.
Stop reading my shirt.
Yeah, your white shirt that says I hate Twitter on it.
Yeah. Twitter. Love
Anyways,
you.
this tangent is brought
man.
to you by the Lore Dump. We have been your illustrious DMs. Look out for my new podcast all about Lilo and Stitch. It's called The Stitch Fix. It'll be airing sometime in the future. Josh, you want to take it over here? Because I'm just rambling about my
the
own
Stitch
projects.
Fix is a 10 out of 10 podcast. I've had the opportunity to listen to it already, and I can tell you it will not disappoint. Sean is really bringing his A game here, and I need you guys to push him on releasing it.
Each
like really,
episode
really
is
tweets at him,
Yeah.
Instagram messages, emails,
Okay,
everything you
let's
can
calm
to Sean, asking him about his Lilo and Stitch podcast so that he will release it because he's sitting on it.
How about
And
this?
it's really high quality things.
We get
He's
to
not
50
going to disappoint
episodes.
you.
I'll release the first episode of Stitch Fix. How about that? We make
All
it
right,
to 50
everybody.
episodes of this fucking podcast. I'll release that shit.
All right, everybody. You're the best.
Hey,
Don't forget, Stitch Fix. See you all later.
we're gonna leave you here with some music.